Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, I worked on a number of different gardening projects, so why don't we just go through and I'll show you each thing that I did and kind of explain what my thought process was behind it. So this was the main area that I was working on today, and I did a few different things. First is going to be that I planted 3 Leucothoe shrubs that you can see right here, as well as some daylilies. Can you believe that I planted daylilies? I normally hate them, but this variety in particular just really stood out to me. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I give it a try? Now, I only have the tag for the Leucothoe, this and then the grass that I planted didn't actually, well, different story with the grass. The daylilies didn't really have a tag, but these 3 shrubs here is a type of Leucothoe called Gerard's Rainbow. You can see it gets 4 feet tall by 6 feet wide, hardy to -30, so I think that's a zone 4, and this is evergreen. Now, you can see it says part shade to shade. In our climate, these do totally fine in full sun, because when I got these at the garden center, they were sitting in full sun for over a month, and this was in July. So these will totally do fine. My thought process was, as this tree grows, I wanted to put stuff here that could tolerate more shade, so that way as those get shaded out, they'll still do pretty well. Leucothoe is in the Irrigation family, which is in the same family as rhododendrons. So it's one of those plants where if you live in a climate or just an environment that has more acidic soil, they will do great for you. If you live in a place where you can't really grow rhododendrons or blueberries or anything like that, I would say you're probably going to struggle quite a bit with Leucothoe. So just something to keep in mind. What I absolutely love about these plants is all of the different color that you get without even seeing much of the flowers. They do flower in the spring. You can see they kind of flower. They look like Pieris or Japanese Andromeda, and also like blueberry flowers just because they're pretty related to blueberries. But what I love about them the most is you can see that they have green in them with that yellow striping, and then the new growth is kind of that reddish pink color. So I put 3 of them together. They're going to get 6 feet wide, so they're going to completely fill up this space, and I do want the 3 of them to grow into each other a little bit. That's just kind of the look that I'm going for. But I've got those here, and then I've got these Titan Sky daylilies, which let me grab my phone so I can tell you the dimensions of these. So these are from Monrovia Titan Sky daylily, and you can see they get 12 to 18 inches tall, 18 inches wide. I think I skipped over it. So zones 4 through 11. So they can survive in pretty much any zone. What I really like about them is this one's actually on its way out. These daylilies I got kind of at the end of their blooming season, but they have a really nice, like kind of peachy apricot colored flower with a yellow center, and they do have some ruffling going on. These are just about bloomed out at this point. There's still one more bud on them, but I figured I'd at least plant them here, and they are a reblooming daylily, so maybe I'll get blooms again. I did also put some fertilizer, so we'll see if they do anything. I really love looking at this Gaillardia with the daylilies above it, because this has much more of that orangey yellow tone, that has more of that yellowy pink tone, and then we've got the pink from these hydrangeas, which I want to talk about these next, because these hydrangeas I just planted only a few weeks ago at this point, or a couple weeks ago. I really love the look of the shrubs, and I'm happy that I have some evergreen interest because these won't show much during the summer. I just wanted to try an experiment to see cutting them back if they would rebloom this season. You can kind of see the new buds on here, and that was before I even cut these back. Those buds were just there. I think that they just look a little bit more cleaned up. The flowers still looked fine being faded on here, and you can see that there is another bud, but these will continue to push out blooms throughout the season. They just only push out a few of them, so I'm thinking by cutting the whole thing back by quite a bit, it might encourage more root development, which these are probably going to need that anyways, and then hopefully they will flower. So I also gave them some urea to darken the leaves, as well as some flower tone just around the base of each one of these plants. While we're over here, I cut back this lavender. This is a sensational lavender. I think it's gotten eaten by bugs or something like that, but I figured I'd just cut it back. And then this catmint too. I just wanted to cut it all the way back, and hopefully we'll get a second flush of blooms. I'd love to move this lavender over a bit because this actually was kind of growing into it, but there's a huge rock right here that I forgot about from last year. So I don't know if I can really plant anything there. We'll see, but I think just cutting them back, they'll do a little bit better there. I did cut this smoke bush back because it was starting to push out some pretty long stems, and I'm hoping for the first couple years just to get this as thick and full as possible, so that way it'll really bush out and fill up some space without being kind of sparse in the middle. So I pretty much just cut every single stem back. Probably it's not any taller than about 2 feet at this point, but it's a pretty vigorous grower, so I'm thinking it'll push out some more growth this season. The last thing that I planted for today is this grass, which is called Blonde Ambition Blue Grama Grass. I really love the look of the seed heads here. You can see that they're more of like a horizontal look than anything else. And I don't really have any type of grassy texture in this spot over here. I have a little bit more of that grassy texture because of the daylilies now, but with this grass here, I think that'll just really tie things in together, and it's kind of close to its mature size. I pulled up a website on my phone. So Blonde Ambition Blue Grama Grass is what this variety is called. And if I scroll through, it's hardy in zones 4 through 9. Definitely wants to take full sun. And then it gets 30 to 36 inches tall, 30 to 36 inches wide. So it's definitely gonna get a little bit bigger than it is now, but I think it'll fill up that space nicely and just kind of touch the other plants that are there. So we've got the Frosted Fire Sedum, that's what this one is called here, and the Maimone Weigela. And because there's a lot of irrigation happening between those two, I just wanted something soft and kind of like a rest between the two because there's just a lot of color happening. I think this really helps to break up those two different textures. Okay, it's actually a new day. As you can see, I'm wearing a different outfit because I had a dinner to go to, so I just ran out of time. But I wanted to talk about the last couple of things that I worked on for this video. So just a couple minor things. This limelight hydrangea had one branch that was really standing out straight. It didn't have any blooms on it, so I just cut it down to here. I'm not really sure because we're not quite into August if it's gonna push out any new growth and any more flowers, but you can't even really tell that that branch was gone anyways, and this hydrangea looks just incredible this year. Over on the other side of the bed, I was right there before, this is the Endless Summer Crush hydrangea. There was one branch that was kind of hanging out just this way, and it looked really odd compared to the rest of it, so I just cut that back, and I think this is a much better shape now. Also, I didn't record this, but I actually just did this today. This is the Carolina Sweetheart Redbud. This was leaning a little bit to the right, so I just grabbed one of these, it's like a maybe 5-foot stake or so, and then I just staked it so that way it would help correct it for the rest of the season. It also pushed out a second flush of growth, which is actually really nice, but because it has a lot more leaves to kind of grab onto the wind, I wanted to make sure that this was standing up straight. You really don't want to stake trees unless you absolutely have to, which I did have to for this. So I'll probably leave this up for the rest of this season until it goes dormant again, and then just leave it for the winter, because that will encourage the roots to develop stronger, and then the trunk will be sturdier. If you always leave a tree staked for the first few years, it's not going to develop those like anchoring roots, if that makes any sense. That'll really help hold that trunk in place. The other project I worked on, which I didn't really record much of it because it ended up being more an experimental project than anything else, was I set up all of my containers on drip irrigation. I started to record it at first, but to be honest, this was more of a learning process just for me to be familiar with how drip irrigation works. So I was kind of figuring out as I went, and I figured instead of showing you guys the whole process, I would just show you what I did at the end, and I think you'll get the gist of what I was working on anyways. So here's in the backyard where I have the faucet down here. I have it split off into two different pieces. I'm having a little bit of an issue with these things leaking, so that's why it's kind of turned to the side here, but this goes to the regular hose reel. And then I have this here. This is called a beehive from Orbit, and this is what's going to control it, where I could use this from my phone. So I can download an app, have this on an automated system, and then it'll work just like that. From here I have a backflow preventer, a pressure regulator, and then this is just a piece that goes from a regular male threaded hose connector to drip irrigation. And I think this is 1/2 inch, if I'm not mistaken, for drip tubing. From there, it goes underneath the condenser, and then I have all this line buried. So I have one line going up this way, and then it goes all the way across from this side to the other side, and then to the back side of the deck. So I'll just walk over quick and show you, and you can see it. So it kind of goes through that way, and then it goes to the other end. With each one of these, I teed off with a 1/4 inch drip tubing, and then it goes right up to those containers. With this 1/2 inch drip tubing, I didn't buy anything specifically to like cap it. So what I did was I just bent it over, and then I used duct tape to hold it there. So that seems to work for now. And then it's also being held up by these clips where you could just push it into the tubing and then nail it in place. And I think it does a pretty good job of holding this up. So from here, where this tubing comes up and goes up to the deck, I actually continued another line of tubing underneath the mulch around this way, and then it goes underneath the deck here and all the way over to the edge. And this is a good example where you can see the 1/4 inch drip tubing I teed off from here, and then it goes to the pot. And then with the 1/4-inch drip tubing, I connected it to this brown drip tubing that actually has the emitters built in, and I just did a circle around these pots. So this is connected to the drip. I also put a drip emitter with a 1 gallon per hour emitter on this Macrophylla hydrangea, just because they always love having a lot of water. But I have these two plants, and then the 3 deck planters up on the deck, all on drip. Now we're in the front yard. This is actually where our connector is. So hose reel right here, it just splits off. You can see there's the same box and then all of the other pieces that go that way, and then it goes all the way over to where the stairs are. What I did from there is I have the 1/2-inch drip tubing starting in that corner. It goes across, and you can't really tell too much, at least from the stairs, unless you're specifically looking for it. It tees down, goes straight down that way into the mulch, and then it goes over to here, so that way this container can be hooked up on drip. From here, I took that 1/4-inch drip tubing, just kind of snaked it around, and then with this container, I actually just did, which don't look at my caliber koa because they're not happy, but this is a good example of what I would do for an individual container. So I've got the drip tubing, and then I have the gallon per hour emitter, and that seems to be enough water for now, and then it just stakes right in, just like that. In these 2 containers, I have the same 1/4-inch drip tubing, which is actually kind of hard to see since I was able to bury it so far. But there's the 1/4-inch drip tubing here, so that's going to be this container, and then I did an individual drip emitter for this Bacopa here, and then on this container, I think I did the same thing, the 1/4-inch, the brown tubing here. So that's it, nothing all that exciting. I just wanted to get some experience using drip irrigation, understanding how it works, so that way as I do other projects in the future, I'm just a little more literate with what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. Which is why I didn't really want to record it, but I have a better understanding now of kind of how it does work, and I can work out the kinks over the next month or 2. As we have some hot weather and as these things get watered and everything's on a schedule. So with that being said, that was the last project. I don't really have too much that I tried to record with it, but just kind of a back end thing to do anyways. With that being said, I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I will see you in the next one.